Welcome everybody to Coach's Corner, where we help people change their relationship with food and fitness. I am Coach Linden.
I'm Amy.
I'm Coach Debbie.
And again, we're just here to discuss things that we think can be helpful to each and every one of you, which is why we do this in the first place, things that are happening in our community, outside of our community, and share a little bit of ourselves in the process. If you like this video, share this video, and make sure you hit that notification button and subscribe, so that way you get all the new stuff as it comes in, okay? Today we were going to talk about on the last podcast, we talked about capacity, okay? We didn't even get to finish the last one. We
didn't do spiritual.
We missed the spiritual piece,
Right?
What exactly did we talk about?
Coordination?
It was coordinating,
Coordinating spiritually.
Mental and physical,
Spiritual
but not
coordination.
really.
Spiritual coordination? Okay, let's throw this in as like a bonus segment and then we'll just move right on.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, okay, cool. One thing to say about spiritual coordination? All right, one thing to say about spiritual coordination, I would say, is operating at a deeper level of consciousness, like operating at a level where things happen because you know they need to happen or you saw them happening before they happen. That type of deal. You're just so plugged in that you feel what needs to happen instead of it being something where you're like, man, I really don't know what to do next. Or you have to have a plan for it. It's like the plan's already there, you're just following along. That would how I describe it.
All right.
Yeah.
For me, I think, piggybacking off of that, I think spiritual coordination to me is being more intentional, but also being more still so that you can realize how much of you're not aware of, how much is happening around you that you're not aware of. We'll never be fully aware of everything, but increasing like your awareness of things, I think, is spiritual coordination. It's like what allows you to make space for what's coming without knowing what's coming. It's like there's so many things that are happening in the air around you, happening with the people around you that you're picking up on, but you may not be intentional enough to like prepare and do something about it. I think of that in like, I kind of instinctually know when people are sick, like Misty always calls me out because I'll be like, yo, you getting sick? She's like, yo, how do you know? And I'm like, over the years, I think it's come down to smell for me, to be real. Like if I'm used to smelling you, and I don't really think about it often, but like I only think about it when you're not smelling like you, and then I'm like, yo, I think you might be getting sick. You don't smell like you. And it took me years to like, of Misty being like, yo, how do you even know? For me to even be intentional enough to realize what it was.
That's what was happening?
Yeah. And that's kind of what spiritual coordination means to me, is like, there's so many more things. We have 5 senses. Well, there's more than 5 senses, but we're using these 5 senses to like interpret the physical realm, and it's giving you so much information, and a lot of the time you're not aware of like what that information means until you slow down.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think being tuned in, right? That like idea of being plugged in, we both talked about that. And being able to reflect, right? Especially like self-reflect, I think is a big part of it. So it's, if you're moving really fast and you're not looking inward that much, right? And maybe you're stuck on a lot of surface level shit, you're gonna get lost pretty quickly, I think, because like it's really hard to see at the surface if it's really deep.
Right.
And I think people kind of get lost there. But making time to reflect, even if it's just journaling or even like a meditation, like that's a good way to slow down. I find that's a great way for me to like tune into me, to slow me down so that I can maybe come out of that and be like, oh, okay, I see what's happening. Especially if I'm dealing with a problem or,
Fair.
putting something off, which I'm doing right now. But I acknowledge that I'm doing it, right? I know that like I'm prolonging my suffering the more that I put off this thing that I need to do.
Is this something we can share on camera?
I'm not ready to do that yet.
Talking about how big it is.
Yeah, I'll be vague. Just changing what a relationship looks like. the give and take in a relationship.
Fair.
Changing that and maybe bringing it more back to a more balanced position. And I think it can be easy to find yourself, especially depending on who you are. I'm like really prone to finding myself giving and maybe being drained, and it is something that I recognize I do.
Fair.
So I have to be able to self-reflect and say, hey,
Hell yeah.
I can see where like these feelings are coming up. Like resentment is a really huge flag to be like, hey, there's something here. If I'm feeling resentful towards a situation or a person, there's probably a boundary that I'm not expressing and that I'm not enforcing.
That you feel is crossed. Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of times, you know, it's not malicious. You know, somebody might not, that you've allowed this to happen. You said it was fine. So, you know, they're going with what you said.
Damn.
So we have to definitely advocate for ourselves. Otherwise, you know, people be like, well, what do you mean? I thought it was fine. Be like, well, actually, I just should have said no.
Facts. Yeah, that's a good segue into the topic of, or the conversation of capacity, honestly. Because too often capacity is not seen for what it actually is, right? And yes, people will get used to your capacity. Another way to say it is people getting used to your yes. Right? So then when you finally do say no, then people will get offended because they're used to your yes. Right? And again, I actually liked a quote of Fred said to me a while back. He said, I only have people in my inner circle I can say no to. And I was like, huh. Like that was one of those realized like, that's right. Like you should be able to say no to the people close to you.
Yeah.
And if you can't, then someone is not being honest.
Right.
And obviously, if I'm not saying no, that someone is me. So,
Right.
So
And if you are saying no, you're probably figuring out who remains in that circle.
correct.
Now that I'm saying
You know,
no,
like-
that's facts.
Yeah, you know, the people who are left are the people who are left. So
And I will speak to, like, in the process of increasing your capacity, I think it's even more important to have people around you that are saying no to you and that you feel comfortable saying no to. Because, like when people get used to your yes, that's like stagnation, you know, like that's like a solid idolization of a person, and it's not actually the full breadth of the person. Like everyone should be able to say yes and no depending on like what you have capacity for in that season. You know, I may say yes to you because this is like that month where I'm good, you know, but then you ask me next month or you ask me 2 months later and it may be a no, or it may need to be a no.
I think it can get deep with stuff like this really quickly, and a lot of it is because,
Good job.
yes, my capacity and see the thing is like, and I had to realize this, my capacity only changes by what I do. If my capacity changes, it usually changes for the better. It's just where, right? And that's what makes it seem like less to someone else. So it's not that I'm not able, I don't have the capacity to give to you. It's that I've
increasing somewhere
chosen
else.
to use it somewhere else,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or maybe I've grown and this space, because the space has not grown with me, now that my capacity is larger, you're still stuck at the same. And most people look at your capacity as percentages, not numbers. Right? So if you were at 30% before, let's say you have 100, it's 30%, then you know that 30 looks very much like 30. But if I increase to 2 and I keep you at 30, you know there's another 30 you're not getting. So that starts to play in that person's head, and they start to become like, what happened to us? Even if you're still giving in almost the exact same way.
Dang.
Yeah.
I like that you said that.
Yeah,
that's wild.
It's important. It's important to realize, like, when you're working out your capacity, it's important to realize what capacity is and how it looks to create it for in space, right? Because that's what you're doing, right? So while we just kind of covered mentally, ironically.
Yeah.
Capacity is one of those things where mentally it can be very easy to misconstrue, very easy to say, well, I've seen it like this. No one's discounting what you've seen. I just may not agree, right? Your reference may not be my reference. Fair? It doesn't mean that your reference is wrong. It just means that my reference is mine, right? And as you start to increase your capacity, like I increase my capacity with physical training, Most people only look at the benefit that the body shows, but actually, I've talked about this before. You respect someone who's in good shape for a couple different reasons: discipline, integrity, and consistency. Right? If you see someone who has a good amount of anything, like look-wise, it's different from the average person's, you're automatically drawn to it, right? Because they've done something outside of the norm, right? If you're an average American who is now not such great shape, and I show up in decent shape, people are asking me what's my routine, what I've done. So to show up in great shape looks like, well, what's great shape really, right? People start questioning it. Is it great shape to have abs all the time? Maybe, for you. Maybe not, right? And that's an important part of that. So mentally, what do you guys think about capacity?
I thought we covered mental.
I mean, not individually.
Snap. So we're skipping physical? Did we do physical?
Yeah, I mean, we can go to both.
All right, let me do both. Increasing physical capacity, I think, is one of those ones that feels easier than the other two. And I know it's not necessarily easier. I'm saying, to me, it feels easier.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't agree with that at all. Mental's definitely the first one.
Yeah, we're talking me. We're talking all that. All right.
But is that true, though? Is that true?
Let me finish.
All right.
Let's find out.
It feels easier because there's such a vivid marker to look at. It's like, when it comes to mental and spiritual side of increasing capacity, it's like you have to, it's a feeling, you know, it's more feel based. When it comes to increasing your physical capacity, it's like, all right, I feel it, and also I can just see that, and people are commenting on it, and you know, people are constantly being like, hey, something's changed, and I'm like, yeah, something has changed. That feels easier to recognize when capacity is increased. And I think that's just because the nature of the body is that it wants to. It wants to do the thing the next time. You know, like if you go and you try your hardest to do something, your body will break itself down. And then as long as you're resting and giving it what it needs properly, the next time you go to do it, your body wants to do that. It's like prepared from the last time to be like, all right, let's get it up. Let's push that thing. Let's run that distance. Let's do that thing. So even in here, when we're training, I get to see, that's part of the reason I love training. I get to see people in real time increase their capacity physically. And I get to see how that's tied to their mental 100%. You know, like the body follows the mind. So that's how I look at it, is like, if I see your physical increasing, that means that before that happened, your mental capacity increased.
Yeah, well, that's actually why I said that they're different. Like, okay, first seeing is usually the result of, right? Yeah. Okay, so first seeing, physically, I could see why someone would say that, but ironically, you see the mental benefits before you see the physical, in my opinion. Like, for someone to show up to do that is their mental challenge. So like the fact that they keep showing up, they're watching themselves show up every day. Now, they may not see the value in showing up, right? Until something amazing happens. But like, that's what builds the most character and capacity anyway. We call it faith for a reason. I have faith that what I'm doing every day will then bring a result. So faith being a very big part of the component that allows you to start to even show up for yourself. Like, how many people come here? Again, we're running into the winter season. People are dropping off just because it's cold outside. It is now more difficult to get up in the morning because now you have to literally pick yourself up to get out, versus the sun was waking us all up at one point, right? The lower the sun goes, the colder it gets, the harder that is. Just getting here is a victory for a lot of people because of how difficult that is. So the victory's already been had by showing up.
Right.
And then they get to see, like, they keep trying as they've shown up, because that needs to show up again and again and again. And then eventually there becomes the marker of, because I kept showing up, I got this in my journey, right? Same thing goes, it's nutrition, the physical training aspect, it doesn't matter. If you have a crap diet, you know. Like, there's no one has to tell you it's a bad diet for you. You know. Right? I haven't gotten any stronger. Are you eating enough? Oh man, I didn't even think about that. Like, that's something you hear all the time. But as I just said, I said in a couple podcasts ago, you watch yourself put everything in your mouth. You knew. You get what I'm saying? Like, you know, if your coach gave you something or said this is what healthy eating looks like, and you go against that, you knew. right? Maybe you don't want to admit it to yourself, which is why the physical wins usually show up better. But ironically, just creating consistency. We saw it last season. Doing hard things to do hard things. Amy's actually wearing the shirt. Like, we saw the benefit of that in real time for so many people. Like, it was like a wave of productivity in the middle of a winter season just because people were willing to do it, right? Lunging outside, going around, doing different things. Like, it was massively wild to watch how this all played out, and it's good. It's a good thing.
Was it jump rope challenge before the lunch challenge?
Yeah, we did the jump rope before the lunch, but nothing like. This is to like kind of bring it around. I'm noticing that as a community leader of space, like giving things. I've never had people do things I can't do, right? Like that's been my whole thing with training. Like if I can't do it, why would you be doing it? And I think these challenges at first were like made where it was like, well, I can do that, but I wouldn't do it as a challenge, right? And then it didn't land as well. But when I started choosing things that I did, like lunging was just something I was doing. I was outside lunging in the cold. It didn't matter if it was Sunday. I was doing it, right? That plays into the rest of how like you show up for yourself, show up for others. Like I'm going through a season where I'm responsible, like truly responsible for more than my family. I'm responsible for a lot of my extended family, right? You guys. And as I am responsible for you all, one of the best things that people are like acknowledging is the fact that I show up, right? But I've never not shown up for the people in my life. I just don't have too many people in my life, like in Rochester. You know what I'm saying? So like leaving the old behind, creating new Ohana, right, is difficult. But it's not difficult because I don't love you guys don't love me. It's difficult because even making the time to be anywhere has its own challenges, right? There's 24 hours. I gotta divvy this out evenly, and I still gotta make sure my home's great, right? Like, as soon as we leave here, I gotta go home and clean up. Yeah, you know, like it's not, you know, it's always funny when people are like, man, you're so busy. And again, I'll say like, I never said that. I will take the time midday to talk to you for hours if you need me, right? Because that's who I am as an individual. So I realized once I changed this, and I saw people change this, like this is the win. Once people change this, then the other stuff, they get the opportunity to see the other stuff. So that's what I'm saying. Sorry, it took a lot of time.
No, that's okay. I do understand though what you're saying
From his
because
aspect,
it is
yes.
like a very, it almost seems like, yeah, this is what it is, you know, where
Right, you got it or you don't.
Right, like maybe working on your mental stuff, it is easier to lie to yourself. It is easy to like,
I agree with that.
maybe put off some stuff. You're like, oh, well, not that. We're not gonna deal with that, right? And I feel like because of how I grew up, like I was used to work. So like being consistent and using my body, like pushing physically was easy, but mentally maybe working on some stuff or like trying to give myself mental consistency.
Right.
I struggled with that for a long time, right? And then of course it would affect my ability maybe to be physically consistent.
Yeah,
and to
let's see, we call that, it's like working, okay, I like to attribute everything to working out because that's what we do.
Yeah.
It's like working antagonistic muscle groups, right? So if my hamstrings are bad, I don't not work my hamstrings.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
If if I'm trying to get a better push-up, I don't ignore the push-up, right? I do the push-up too. Now, some people will tell you, these 5 moves will give you a better push-up. I don't think that's always true. Fair? I think sometimes a lot of people like to dishonestly say things because buzzwords and other things are happening. We have a group, the Lean by Halloween challenge we're doing right now, and one of the ladies is like, I don't know if I should put other workouts in the group and stuff like that. And I was just like, I don't care. Right? Like, if it's a great workout, it's a great workout. I'm just sharing what I know works. And when she put it in, I was like, oh yeah, this workout sucks. Right? Like, it's a celebrity trainer trying to make people feel better about having like Angelina Jolie arms or something like that. And it just sucks because the movements are very basic, done at a very low level. But again, when I say it sucks, I mean like it's not really pushing someone's capacity.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why they stay stuck for so long.
Yeah.
So yes, you could do this 15-minute workout, but it doesn't allow you to grow. So let's say in the event of capacity, and that's what I was thinking about when you said it, the antagonistic muscle of someone who's willing to push is someone who has to stop,
Yeah.
right? And you have admitted that stopping is something that's very difficult for you, right?
Yep.
Like, ask Amy to help somebody. She'd be like, it'd be like watching a scared cat in the corner. She's like, but is absolutely capable of teaching and should have the confidence, definitely the capacity to do so at a very high level. But again, watching, be like, hey, Amy, you can demo this? Easy, right? Then I'll be like, hey, Amy, can you explain this? Like it's a whole different feel. And a lot of it is because the muscle that needs to be flexed is the muscle to explain. Now again, in your element, got it. Got it all day. I watch you, I'm like, yeah, that's actually really impressive. I think I just learned something. I like it.
Yeah. I think once I started using them together, they like slingshot off each other, right?
Yes, they
like
do.
making
Yes.
like physical and mental gains.
Yep.
They kind of just like
Absolutely.
toss you forward. Because I just like it, like as your mental improve, my ability to treat my body better and to like
True
push
care.
it.
True care.
Right,
You can push
yeah.
it harder if you take care of it.
absolutely,
Facts.
if I can allow it to recover,
Facts.
then I can push it harder and like
Facts.
all of that like makes this feel better.
Facts.
Like, you know, like it makes everything really.
That was how I
connect
got
and feel
ahead. Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
No,
I
I'm
didn't
all
think we were
done.
talking.
That was it.
My capacity in itself, like I grew an impressive physique over 2 years because of that. I was like, nah, I'm gonna work smarter than these guys. These guys have been working out. Everyone looks the same. I'm like 30 pounds heavier, more muscle than ever, leaner than ever. And I'm like, you guys look exactly the same. You're lifting the same weights, doing the same things, having the same conversations. You're literally doing a routine that is keeping you where you are. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with wanting to stay like even, but most people don't want that.
Right.
That by definition, average is not okay. You go, everybody wants to be special, but they want to do average stuff to be special. That doesn't make any sense. There has to be something special about the thing you're doing, right?
Well, that's what
the
I said.
ordinary
You heard
done
me say
extra.
that this morning. Oh, you was talking. Yeah, Sarah. Sarah this morning. Shout out Sarah Miner. Sarah was like, I did something. I think we were stirring the pot, right? And I was like, well, there's 2 different versions. And then she was like, Debbie's just amazing, And I was like, hold up. I was like, I'm starting to get what you've been getting, right? Which is that people look at you as like this upper echelons of like human being, that like, oh, you know what? You're just not normal, So like of course you can do it. And I was
Right,
like,
exactly.
I was like, all right. I was like, Sarah, you're gonna stop saying that about me. I was like, I am normal. I was like, I'm very normal. And she was like, well, yeah, that's not what I was saying. And I was like, I understand what you're saying. I just want you to understand what you're saying because you saying he's not normal
Well said.
is actually doing yourself a disservice while you're working out.
Correct.
Like to look at what I'm showing you everyone here can do.
Caps your capacity.
Yeah,
You've like capped it before you even figured out how far it can
Exactly.
go.
And
Right.
I'm like
Exactly.
anything that I've done here, like I literally learned most of the shit in this space.
Right.
Like I wasn't able to touch my toes when I came in here. I wasn't able to do front lever. I wasn't able to do a lot of these things. Like you weren't able to do a pull-up. Like those wins happened here in this space. And like while Sarah's working out next to these 2 other people, it's like these 2 people next to you, Cora wasn't able to drop her knee to the ground. Like everyone's got these wins where they came in not at that capacity.
Facts.
And they've increased.
Facts.
And I was like, you watching how you speak, how you use words, that's your affirmations. That's what you're actually manifesting. And if you manifest that like I'm abnormal and that you are normal, like now you'll never reach that capacity.
Yeah.
Even if you were able to, you'll never be able to get there because you told yourself you weren't. And I was like, Lynn over there has the same thing. I was like, Lynn likes to say something that he's extraordinary. And I was like, I'd call myself extraordinary in things. And I was like, but that's because I've done them extra times. It's an ordinary thing. I did extra times.
Yeah.
And it's like getting your reps in. Like Sarah likes to snowboard. That's what I said there. I was like, you like to snowboard, right? I haven't snowboarded a day in my life.
I will be wild trash at
I'd be trash at snowboarding.
Even if I can keep my belt. Right? It'll be weird. Yeah.
And I was like, how long you been snowboarding? And she was like, 7 years. I was like, so you started in your 40s and you snowboard often. I was like,
Extraordinary.
I was like, you could spend 3-4 hours snowboarding, right? I can't do that. I was like, but I can spend 3-4 hours dancing. And I was like, that's it. I was like, the more time you spend here not being like, oh, these people are abnormal, I can't do that. But being like, hey, that looks like something I want to do. Yeah. You're picking up passions.
Facts.
Pick a passion up off the ground and spend time with it. Tell me you're not extraordinary at it. Like,
Word. Well said.
Yeah, all right then.
Yeah, that was well said, and it is that the capacity you have is usually based on what you do. Like it is. It is. If we I take all the wording out and all the special stuff, and just capacity is boiled down to what you do, right? And I have so many people. Maybe that's some form of shirt. Like I have so many people currently trying to work on capacity, and I'm watching where they're placing their efforts, and then having to tell them that the efforts are misplaced. You get what I'm saying? It's not that you can't do better. It's that you're focused on doing better this way, and that's not the way to do it for what you want, right? So if you want to be like, if I want to have better relationships, I can't go home and sit on my computer all day. You get what I'm saying? I have to actually talk to people and spend time with them, and that will, yes, it'll be uncomfortable to have to call you and say, hey, you want to hang out, because I don't do that often. But if that helps me be closer to you, that's what I'm looking for. That uncomfort of even being able to call and ask is part of my growth, right? Like that's why, if people really paid attention, like what do you really want, and then go back, right? There's so many people who say, well, I don't want to be overweight anymore. It's like, good, put down the sugar. Like that sounds wild to so many people. I don't want to give up sugar either. Then do you really want to change? And I'm not saying you have to. I'm just ask yourself the question. You're already talking about things you won't do before you talk about what you will do. Do you want the change, right? Like that's why that phrase, the ordinary being extraordinary, came up for us. Like, again, people saw us all the time and said that. You guys, I could never do that. I was like, yo, I've been training them for like half a year. Couldn't have done this a year ago, right? Like, I'm not special. I just keep showing up.
Yeah.
Are you showing up? Like, that's the question you have to ask yourself. Are you showing up, right?
and I think
I'm gonna pick on Sarah a little bit. No, go. You got something?
No,
I was gonna say I'm gonna pick on Sarah a little bit. Shouts out to Rutherford, not Minor, right? Who has a show today, which we're all gonna go to. So you guys are gonna be seeing this late. We have worked extremely hard to like help Sarah get there, and we know that Sarah has the capacity to have better push-ups, better pull-ups, but for ladies, they require consistency. You know, if a woman can do those skills well, she has done them a lot, right? Like legs, killing it, right? But that's like ladies' gift is the lower body and strength, right? So when they do upper body, you see a lady pull out some pull-ups, again, she worked for that. You know she did. It wasn't, I did it once and I just got it. It was, no, I showed up, I hung, I did negatives, I did all the work in between to attain the strength to do this. And that's why it's impressive, right? It's not like, it's just like when you see me, like I was in the gym yesterday doing squats and this kid stopped me. He was like, dude, you're a machine. Because I had 315, I would squat at 5, and then I was going to the side and doing 6 box jumps per side, and every time I changed something to like challenge myself, and I did 6 sets of that. So technically I did 315 for 18 squats, right? On top of the jumping, which was 12 by 6, which is 72, right? Like I did 72 jumps and that many squats, and it was all done in like 15 to 20 minutes. This kid's just watching me. He stopped working out, right? And that does happen because to him, I'm an anomaly. But if I was in like some training facility for athletes, my weight might be heavier, but that's what they do.
Yeah,
right? That's what they do repeatedly, like all the time. So it's only when you're in certain rooms, you may stand out. But when you're in other rooms, yes, you will be considered more average. Ironically, and all the people who like really want to train, who like want to stand out, you train hard enough, you do enough capacity to where no matter where you go, you do stand out, right? Like if Amy went to a dancing studio, She's going to be a bigger than everybody else, but in a way they can't deny anymore. Like, it's not just you're heavier. It would be, no, she's more muscular. She's more defined. She jumps further. She moves faster. Like, that would be the conversation. Sure, their moves might be more fluid because she hasn't practiced that style, but there would be no denying that the physique is an earned physique of hard work, and that is what gets admiration, right?
Yeah.
But admiration does make people cap off their capacities.
Yeah, I think about that with the pull-ups in particular for me, because people talk about it, and every time somebody says something, I'm like, yeah, I hung in a doorway 30 days while we were doing the lunge challenge. A few of us also did a hang challenge with it, and I hung 7 minutes, not in a row, because I can't do 7 minutes in a row. But like off a door frame, legit, like the first knuckle of each finger, and that that really, I mean, I started with my feet on the ground. I wasn't even, and then I got to the point where I could pull myself up from my fingertips. So like, yeah, those pull-ups might look impressive, but they were a lot of work.
That was a lot of
It was like a lot of work and like dedication, and that coming in here and just doing it. And then I like just kind of did one earlier this week, and I didn't even notice.
Shows up. That's what it does, right? What's important is not only did you do the challenge, but you did the same things that everyone else was doing too. So again, to bring why capacity is important, it's because you were building your capacity even in the time you weren't in the space. Because some people are just like, well, I'll just do the workouts and that's it. They're like, the rest of my lifestyle stays extremely inactive. And they're like, man, I don't know why I'm not changing like that. I was like, I can tell you, I'm looking at it, right? You can't say you want to look like an athlete and have an inactive lifestyle. Athletes are always moving. Like, it's just, so again, you want to look more athletic, do more athletic stuff. Sounds stupid, but that's really the crux, right? So if you if I think about it just in training hours alone, if you're putting in double time, it's going to be very easy. Let's say, as an example of measurement, it takes 300 hours of back work to get a pull-up, right? You show up to train every day. Let's say that's an hour. That's 5. But what if you hang from a door frame every day for another hour, right? Like to get to your 7 minutes, you're just doing the work. Okay, so now we go from 5 to 12, right? Now again, we need 300 hours. Who's getting there faster, 12 hours or 5? Oh, that's why they're impressive? Got it, right? And again, think about every month, let's say every 2 to 3 months, if you don't put the hours in by that time, it resets. Now you gotta do it all over again, right? That is pull-up game for a lot of ladies I've met, right? If you don't use that back strength and connectivity, you will lose it.
Yeah.
Right? Unless you've acquired it already, then you still would lose it and just got to get it back. Right. It's that way for so many things. I think that's just a metaphor for life in general, and how all those things work, which is why I do capacity. It was going to be a conversation.
If you don't use it, you lose it. I don't like that phrase. I like what's trained is maintained. You know, like that feels more accurate to me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
And the fact that like, if you're not actively intentionally training the thing, then you will not have that thing, you know? But the whole, if you don't use it, you lose it. There's some like nuance to it. It kind of feels like an exception to the rule, you know? And and I don't think that's necessarily true across the board, but.
That is hilarious that you said it like that. That's actually very true.
I also wanted to speak on spiritual capacity and what I think about how to increase that.
Yeah,
I think,
Mr. Growth. Everybody telling you how much you're growing lately?
Yeah, what the fuck?
I'm being loud about it. Yeah, that's all right.
Well, it's real
That's
easy.
right.
It's real easy to talk about how to increase your spiritual capacity. To do it, I think it's one thing. It's surrender. You know, like, that's it. I'm next.
All I got to say is it's hard and I'm doing it.
Yeah.
That's basically what you just
like,
basically.
It's surrender 100%. I think surrendering to what's not unbecoming you. What's not working for you. Surrender that shit over. And that's the hardest thing. Like you just said, people don't want to give up sugar, but they want to be fit. They want to be skinnier. What? You know, like, yes.
Processed sugar gotta
Sugar
go.
has a hold on your heart.
Processed sugar
but like,
gotta go.
Yeah, you got to let something go, and it's always going to be. I won't say always, but most of the time, it's something near and dear to you. It's something that like is very hard to let go.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Facts.
surrender that shit up.
Your comfortable space.
Yeah.
Your, whether it be the food you consume, the attitude you've carried,
Narrative,
the
yeah.
narratives you've
The
written.
narratives.
A hard one to give up.
The narratives. Bruh.
Yeah.
I will always think back to when Amani called me out for that. We all talking about going around the yoga circle. Everyone's introducing themselves because we're about to do yoga teacher training. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I used to run the streets. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's hard out here, but I turned my life around. You know, it's fine. That's how I'm talking, right? Like, not exactly like that, but that's what, you know, I'm essentially saying. And I'm like, you know, and I've turned around and now I'm a father and I'm trying to be better for this community. And, you know, I'm just giving it the best I got, right? That's why when people say that, I get mad at it. I don't think I've ever said that. That's
the best I've
that's
got.
why I'm doing the best I can, right? Amani, if you've ever met Amani, I've talked about Amani.
You just put a cap on yourself.
I just put a cap on myself, right? And Amani goes, she didn't speak during anyone else's. When you gonna let that go? Yeah, like flip the table. I can't get away. Flip the table. Flip the table. You're right.
Distraction.
It's right. That's exactly what it was. Don't see me. That's what it is, right? And it was a lot of it was because like no one had been earnest and honest enough with me to tell me that I had limited myself.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's all it was. That's what she was saying. And not by saying, when are you gonna grow up? Just simply saying,
when are you gonna let that narrative
this
go?
story doesn't suit who you want to be.
Surrender it.
Right. Let it go. That story was how I became Lauren's father.
Up to that point.
It's the story I wrote to be around for my kids. Right? But again, we be honest on this podcast, so I'm being honest. That was also the time where me and Ashley were on the rocks because I refused to let go of the narrative of what's she gonna do for me, right? Like I was holding on to, you're supposed to do this, right? And man, the amount of people who make the mistake of not understanding that the things that they hold on to are breaking the blessings they're supposed to have is insane to me, right? So spiritually, yeah, you only have the capacity for so much, right? So in order for the new thing to even come in,
clear space.
You have to clear the space and then usually it gets broken so it can be rebuilt stronger and larger, right? So it's that piece in and of itself is foreign to so many people, right? Well, I'm fine the way I am. You don't like you. Right? Like if we're being honest, you don't like you. Yeah. You should change you. And again, you'll look for everything else, every other reason, every different thing. But the truth is, like when I realized, I was like, man, I'm tired of being, like remember, how many times have I told that story? And I still cry when I tell it. I was so tired of being out of shape and feeling like I was letting my family down. So that narrative, the being Mr. Tough Guy, hoodie up, going to the corner, getting the money, not talking to nobody. Don't talk to me. I'm here for this money. I don't need no friends in this moment, right? That narrative did get me to a certain point. So she's right. I didn't want to let it go. I'm talking about, I know this community needs healing, but this got me here. Well, there's something better. No. This got me here, right? Like I'm saying that actively and not realizing I'm saying that actively.
The words you use.
Right, because we manifest things because of who we are, right? Okay, so if that's the case, you have the ability to speak life and death over yourself. So every time I said, but this, I held myself captive to that. And then I finally said, you know what, Mim? I don't care how this healing happens. I don't care where it goes. I need to change. When I said that and I surrendered, absolutely. Yeah. Life changed. I'm in there having conversations. I don't even know her deep. Now I walk around and I'm called Mr. Philosopher, right? And it's I'm not saying nothing crazy, but I remember this. I don't know if, shouts out to Amani if you ever see this. I don't know if Amani remembers this, but she said to me, she was like, we could stand shoulder to shoulder. That blew my mind at the time. If you know who Amani is, that blew my mind. Like you think that I could be your peer. I think you've probably felt that way about me.
That's
like,
I was just about to say,
right?
You just messaged me like last week, man. I was like,
we're brothers now. Yeah. Because I can see it. Like it's different when you realize who you are. I mean, yes, when I'm helping you. You know, you're going to annoy me with if you like a kid to me, I'm going to treat you like a kid and it's going to be messed up. But then when I start seeing you grow, then I got to go from taking care of you to helping you mature. Right? Now we have a real relationship. Right. We don't have a convenience anymore. This is a relationship now. And when it's a relationship, it's got to be different. And you know what? I said this, I'm probably going to have to close here. I said to be truly in love, like to be in love with whoever you choose, you got to let go of safety. Safety will keep you stuck. Your narrative is keeping you stuck, right? I explained it like, I was thinking about the Flying Graysons. If you know anything about Batman. I was thinking about the Flying Graysons and Trapezius work, right? They practice with a net. They actually perform without one. That's how they died, right? Like there's something freeing and scary as hell about knowing you're about to perform without a safety net.
I wanna say something. We
Please.
can't close it yet.
Let's hope it doesn't.
We can't close it yet. So you weren't here.
Yeah.
But just before we turned this camera on, like 2 trainings before Carol, I was showing Ivy, because Ivy did the 35s, right? I was showing Ivy this video of this parkour dude I've shown you. He like grabs onto poles and slides down them. And he like just fell forward off of like a 3-story building and then grabbed a pole and slid down, right? And she was like, oh my God. And Marjorie was like, let me see. I could never do that. I don't see how anyone could do that, right? And I was like, well, I can show you like an example. Like Ivy knows we did trust falls, but I can show you an example as to how people get here. And I was like, pulled the boxes out. And I was like, all right, let me jump up on this small box. Then let me jump up on this box. We went to the highest box that we had. Then I was like, let's start stacking them. And then Marjorie was like, you're gonna stack them? Huh? And I was like, yeah. So like I started stacking them. And I'm like jumping up. And I'm like, all right, so this one feels scary, right? Just a little bit. Because I haven't done it yet today. Jumped up on it. And I was like, all right, got that. Let me do it 2 more times just to prove to myself that I can do it. Then we'll go up to the biggest box. And then Ivy's like, oh, I don't think you should do that. And I was like, Ivy, I just proved to myself I can do it. Marjorie even commented that my feet were this far off the box when I jumped before I jumped on it.
Right.
So jumped up on there. Everyone's like, oh, and I was like, yeah, but I built up. Like there's no way I could have come here, stacked these boxes, and jumped up without hurting myself.
No, sir.
Right? And I was like, if you've jumped this gap between buildings 1,000 bajillion times, you've jumped that distance, but never that high. All you got to do is start increasing your elevation. And then eventually you're up there 3 stories, jumping off. And yeah, it's scary.
Oh, yeah.
But your body knows that it can. And I'm like, that's exactly what we do here in this space. Like increasing physical capacity is very tied to your mental, and it's very tied to your spiritual. Like you have to surrender to fear.
With that, we're gonna close out.
Boom.
That's it, people. Honestly, thank you so much for watching today. Of course, if you are looking to connect with us, you can reach out to us on www.gettingitdaily.com. Also, you can find us on Facebook or Instagram under the name Getting It Daily. Please reach out. Let us help you get started. Or even if you got questions, like we had someone ask a question today. If you got questions, you could absolutely reach out to us, and we'd be happy to respond. All right. So until next time, this is Coach Lyndon.
This is Amy.
Coach Debbie.
Signing out. Peace.
Deuces.
Not that sore.
Yeah.